It's a great day to be a Kyle. Welcome, Kyle Nation, to another episode of Back to Pack Podcast, where we are going to be bringing you all of your favorite games, memories, and of course, discussion with our fellow Coyotes. As a disclaimer, we have no affiliation to the University of South Dakota. This is a podcast ran by fans for fans. The ideas and comments do not represent the university. Our opinions are our own. Be sure to find us on Twitter at BackToPackSD. With that being said, let's jump in. What's going on, guys? How we doing?
How we doing? Long time no see, right?
The holidays are hectic, especially when we put two of them a week apart.
That's right. Holidays are hectic. We got a lot of bonus football this year in December as well, so we're spoiled that way. But no, been a minute. That's for sure.
Hey, it makes the off season shorter when the season goes longer, so I'm all right with that.
That's
You want to
exactly
know what
right.
the best way to make football come quicker is becoming a fan of the transfer portal and recruiting. Tell you
There
what,
you go, because that never sleeps.
oh,
Right.
it never sleeps. And I tell you, the moment you start watching these kids that get offers from USD, you watch their highlight tapes, that's when you really get sucked into the vortex and you're never coming out of it. So just forewarning, but it is worth it. And it is a heck of a time filler.
Hey,
It's
where's
funny you
Yo-
say that
Where's
because
Yoke fan? I don't see Yoke
Yeah.
fan in here yet. Where's he
Okay,
at?
that's
He's late.
I need to check it. Can we get a check-in on him?
I'm convinced. I also like the whole recruiting thing, where you watch somebody's tape and you're like, he's gonna be the guy. But you just say that 23 times in a row, and you watch 23 different highlight tapes, and you're thinking this guy's gonna be the guy, which isn't the case. But
Mhm.
it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Hey, as a fan, you can dream, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Every recruit we bring in is going to the NFL.
That's right.
Oh, Walter Payton finalist, even as an O line.
That's right. Oh gosh, that's funny.
Hey, while we're waiting for Yoke fan to show up, what's the score of the men's and the women's games going on right now? Basketball.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
good.
Can we
Yeah,
can we
Summit League
complain about
kickoff
Summit?
tonight.
Yeah,
what do
the
we-
Summit League and their decision to do. I know it's not mirrored per se, but when one's playing away and one's playing home at the exact same time, very frustrating.
Yeah, I see the men are down by 10 with 12 minutes left. I not seeing the women's score right offhand. Women are down 1 point with 4:30 left. So
That's
Ooh,
cool. All right. We'll keep an eye on that. Yoke fan's
yeah,
in
we'll
here,
put
by the way.
There he is. You can't concern us like that.
so well, no, I kind of a little bit different show tonight, right? I think obviously no actual football action for us here as we hit the off season, but Mitch, you had a good idea of kind of doing a favorite moments during the season kind of show, because I think we you call it post-mortem, if you will, after the Montana State game. Sometimes it's hard to zoom out after a tough loss like that, and I feel like we didn't do a great job of really recapping the season. And so I think this is a good idea to kind of go through some of our favorite moments, and both on the field and off the field, right? Because I think there's a lot of exciting stuff that went on. You guys saw it. I tweeted out today that this is by far the most fun I've had during a football season. It's like not even close to how much fun this football season was. Just before we jumped on, was kind of tallying it up. I made it to 10 Yoke games, which I never thought I would.
Wild.
Yeah,
I could take
never
my
make
hat
it
off
to.
right now. I'd take my hat off to you, Grant. Going to 10 games in a season, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so there you go.
And
That
one of
all
them wasn't Brookings.
and one of them wasn't Brookings. That's right. My friend got married in Mexico that same weekend. So the one that's actually probably closest to my house, I didn't make it to, which is ironic as it gets. So, but so there you go. I'll set the bar for next year. If anybody wants to beat 10, let me know. I'll try to shoot for 10 again. I haven't really looked at the schedule, but we'll see.
Hey, and I want to say too, what a year to start this show, right? Because we started this back
Right.
almost a year ago to the day, and for me personally, first year having season tickets. So what a year to be a first time season ticket holder for me.
Oh man,
Right.
We, and Mitch, you make me reminisce a little bit back to our. It was really funny, our conversation where I remember you and I just DMing each other for a little bit, talking about, this podcast thing would be a pretty good idea. And I was like, yeah, well, here, call me. We'll talk about it for a little bit. And you called, we chatted for a while, and you go, my only concern is, will we have the ability to go back and forth long enough for a show? And I looked at my phone. I said, Mitch, we've been on the phone for over 2 hours.
Was it that long? Wow.
Yeah.
I was just talking about an idea.
Just an idea. I mean, we just kept going on. And, this is going to be the fun part of the off season. We'll every now and then we'll dabble in a little bit of the basketball side of things because I called it at the beginning. Well, in May, I think after the transfer portal all closed, this is going to be the most fun men's basketball team we've seen since Mooney was there.
Yep.
I don't know. I even said I don't know what their record will be, but they're going to be prime time every time they play. So
and they're fun to watch.
We'll definitely be keeping an eye on their season. But this is the fun part. We get to come up with our own topics. We're not being gifted topics anymore.
Right.
So
right.
If we start stumbling a little bit, please don't give us that hard of a time. We're working through it. All right.
No doubt. That is a little bit of the fun part for sure. So, but does anybody want to start with some of their favorite moments, or what do you think on some of that? Does anybody have like I don't have a super organized list by any means, but I was kind of running through it chronologically today. A lot of, like I said, a lot of good stuff.
Let's just start at the beginning of the season, right? Because they dropped the blackout on us with the all black uniform against Northern State at home. Of course, we put a whooping on them, 45-3. And if you remember, right, the first play of that game, our first possession, Keandre Jones-Logan runs that kickoff back like 90 whatever yards. So for me, that one really set the tone for the season because we had a great turnout too. If you remember, the student section was overflowing.
They set a new record.
Yeah, set a new record for students attending the game. I think it was over 2,000 if I remember right. So there was so much hype around that being the opener and the blackout and everything. We got what we've been asking for years. So for me, that's a big one right off at the beginning of the season.
Now here's hoping John Schemmel flips the script. Does a complete opposite. Let's go all whiteout.
Going on a whiteout season over there. You go.
Yeah, I want to see some stormtroopers running around that field. No, the blackout was cool. It set up for a fantastic atmosphere, even for a 45-3 beat down.
Yep.
Yeah, good way to get some excitement around a game that on paper was not a real exciting one, right? I think we all the expectation you're going to blow them out, but it's I thought the black you made a good point. That's what I had on the note for that is the black jerseys were cool. I thought that was a lot of fun, something we've never seen before, and then the kickoff return to start the touchdown. Little did we know it was going to be a fun year at that point. So
yeah,
but absolutely got it started the right way.
It did. It started the right way, and then really, I would say the following game at Wisconsin. That was one of the away games that we went to. I usually try to get to the FBS games. So, geez, I've been to the Kansas State game when we played down there. We actually made the drive all the way down to OU when they played down there. So it was kind of nice to have a closer game than some of the ones that we've had historically. But talk about a fun atmosphere, right? Anytime to get to go to an away game at a P4 school like that is a lot of fun. But pleasantly surprised too when we were at the game was how we competed well, and I think that was the first time during the season my radar went up when I went, ooh, this team could be really good. Because if you guys remember, and I know most do, but that was a one possession game with 8 minutes left in the game, right? So it got away from us a little bit in the end, but enough to where you went, ooh, okay, this team's not going to be rolling over to anybody at the FCS level.
For me, since we're talking about the Wisconsin game, if you remember I don't know if it was the day or two leading up to the game, Coach Nielsen mentioned that he asked the players if they wanted to get there early and do the tour of the stadium and all that, and they said no, we're here to play ball. And that, you guys, I tell you what, the mental aspect of football is huge. And so for me as a fan, when I heard that, I was like, okay, this team's got it. And and that game was competitive, and historically we haven't seen those games be competitive. So that was really one or maybe a handful of plays away from being a completely different outcome. So yeah, fantastic showing by us and a very gettable game at that.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you spot them 14 points right away to start.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that was a fun game.
They unveiled the Yote script for that game too, didn't they? Wasn't that the because
They
they gave
did.
us, I was thinking about all the helmet and jersey combos and the new stuff they
Mm-hmm.
gave us this year, and I want to say we got like 4 or 5 new helmets,
Yeah,
new
that's
combos,
true.
and I think we used like 6 different jerseys and helmets combos and all that. But yeah, I think that was the white Yote script if I remember right.
How nice is it to have, fresh blood in the athletic department,
Oh,
breathe in some life into the team, and not so much just with the players itself because we knew what we had going into the game or into the season, but the uniforms. It,
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I know we probably have a few people here watching that they don't care. At the end of the day, though, the most important people that matter when it comes to uniforms that enjoy them are the football players, and they can, heck, if they want to run out in all pink because that's their favorite go-to uniform, I'm all for it
Mm-hmm.
because it is a mindset, look good, play good situation, and that's really what they were going for.
And following the kind of the heartbeat on the Facebook page throughout the season, by the end of the season, there were fans that were begging for that Thursday release of the jersey so they could match
Yeah,
whatever color the team was wearing. So it really caught on with whatever they were going to wear that week. I
Yeah,
think
that is.
fans were super excited.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that is funny you say that because you're exactly right. People like to basically match the team
Mm-hmm.
depending on what they're wearing, especially because we wore the black jerseys so often, right? I
Right.
think a lot of people
Right.
would break out the black gear for the black jersey and stuff. So yeah, all that stuff is again just back to fan engagement, getting people excited about it. I know people are excited about it. I meant to mention it earlier, but we've got a group of 16 that have tickets together. Um, we've had 4 more people that are like that came to games, a handful of games, and are like, hey, we want to get season tickets with you guys. Like, so when those go for sale, and it's just you hope that that happens each and every year more and more as we kind of have more fun with this thing. So, but stuff like that helps a ton. Just get people
Absolutely.
engaged too. So,
Absolutely.
so
no,
next game on the list.
Yeah, just keep going. Just keep going.
I was gonna say, yeah, the next game on the list, that was something
Sorry.
that will, excuse me, that we'll probably never, maybe hopefully never see again, right? We thought we'd never see it again after COVID, and here we were staring at a canceled game, which is just wild.
Do you know
Unbelievable.
how petty I'm going to be in 2030 when we play them in the dome? It's on the
I hope their
calendar.
invite's revoked, to be honest.
Yeah, once they get here,
Maybe
we decide to go with
maybe their
different
college will cease to exist by then, and we won't have to see them. Good lord.
Yeah, that was still just getting a game canceled because of an illness not related to COVID at all
Mm-hmm.
that was so weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially at the time, we were kind of scared of what it was going to potentially do to our resume. And at the end of the day, I don't. You could argue maybe it did impact it. I don't think it did, just based on the way things played out, based off and where we finished and all of that. Right? There's a lot of
Yep.
if, ands, and buts. Right? But I don't think it impacted us. But that was a big concern at the time. And I remember even talking to John about it. Just kind of high level. And he had the same concern. Where he's like, "Yeah, I just hope it doesn't come back to bite us." And as the rest of the schedule goes on. But what a
I think
strange deal
it
that
would have
was.
strengthened our argument at the
Mm-hmm.
for the higher seed in the playoffs, right? Because I think if you get one more D1 win, whether it's them or the Northern game is a D1 opponent, and we win that, I think it strengthens our argument. I don't know if we ultimately get there where it impacts us at the end of the year to where we become a 2
Right.
seed, but I think our argument's that much stronger if we have that extra win there as a D1 win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but and I'll do the counter argument. Does it strengthen us that much, or does it move us just to the 3 seed? And then you're answering
Right.
the
I was just
question:
gonna
would
say
you
that.
rather go to Fargo or Bozeman?
Yeah.
And I love the idea of getting out of the conference and playing someone new. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
we didn't get the result we wanted in Bozeman, but it's really cool to have that opportunity to go out and do something new.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah. I guess going down the line, I kind of almost, I should say, when I was looking at the schedule, I kind of lumped these next 3 games together because it was kind of a combination of like us competing super well at Wisconsin and then us just absolutely rolling through Drake, Southern Illinois, Murray State, I mean, really northern Iowa too, right?
Mhm.
It seemed like literally we joked about it all the time, but we literally would get on the show and we'd be like, "Wow, everything worked the whole game. All the starters came
Mhm.
out." And we did it for
Yeah.
4 weeks in a row. We were like,
Yeah.
"This team's unstoppable. We're rolling, we're rolling and rolling." We just kept thinking like, "Man, this maybe it was just we played really good, but we just kept doing it." Especially the Southern Illinois game. That was the one. If you guys remember, I was like, "I hate this game. This is a must-win for us, even though it's only
Mhm.
our fifth game." I was like, "We have to win this game because it's gonna, they're gonna be at the top of the Missouri Valley," which was completely wrong. But
They came in as a wounded. They came in as a wounded duck, though. I mean,
they did.
they were so injury ravaged at that point. But hey, here's a fun fact for you. Speaking of that game, Tice went for 147, which I think was his season high for rushing. And then JJ Galbraith, my guy, went for 100 even and was the leading receiver in that game. So
That's wild.
fun facts for you. And the only reason I bring that up is because we only had a receiver go over 100 yards in a game twice all season. Out of in games, we had a single receiver go over 100. It was Galbraith once, which again tight end, not even a receiver, and then Adams,
Mhm.
Karan Adams later in the season. But just kind of weird in my opinion. But yeah, JJ gets to 100, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is wild. But you guys got to remember too, everybody dogged USD for beating up on Southern Illinois.
Oh
They
yeah.
were not nearly as injured as everybody let on. You know,
Mhm.
we didn't get a chance to actually get them on the show, but I talked with the Southern Illinois podcast for a little while. Besides their quarterback, they were actually really surprised at the number of players that played who they
Right.
thought were going to be injured going into that game. So you got to remember, we beat them 42-13. They were ranked 17th at that game.
Right. That was I was nervous about that game. That was the first game of the year that you're like, "Oh boy, here we go," because you
Finally,
had Drake and Northern, right? So it's like two expected blowouts, and then here you go and blow out the number 17 team in the country. You're thinking, "Whoa, what was that about?" So, uh, yeah, that stretch, that 3 game stretch is really where I think the momentum really started to build, especially for us us guys that are like engaged all the time.
How
But then
about
that's where I
how
think,
about the Murray State shutout? We
right.
joked about the the racehorse running around the track when they score. They never got to score.
He was well rested that day.
you're well rested.
After the game, they had to go work the horse out because he didn't get his daily workout in.
That's right. That's right. Right, and that was another game. I think if I remember right, I was doing a little weekend with my family, so I didn't get to watch a lot of the game, but kind of watched it back, and you were like, "Whoa!" Same thing where it's like, yes, Murray State's down and out and the bottom feeder in the conference, unfortunately, but regardless, like that's pitching a shutout is crazy in conference
Right.
play.
Right.
Yeah. And you got to remember too, NDSU went there and they won 59-6. And so that's what built my confidence in the idea that we could beat them.
Mhm.
We just common opponents. We were better on it then.
Speaking of that, the women won according to Yote fan 77-71.
Yeah,
Nice,
exactly. That's
nice.
awesome. The men, I know the men are a little ways out still, so but it's not looking the best. 13 with 5:20 left, according to the phone. So
All
hopefully
right.
they can figure it out. You can't lose to a team that are called the Roos.
Kansas City, yes, yeah, Kansas City's a good squad this year, though, so I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. D-Days is next. Northern Iowa. What do you guys think of that? D-Days atmosphere is always obviously a fantastic atmosphere the whole week. A lot of hype.
Mhm.
I think that one was that a sellout? No, just shy.
Not quite. We got to 89-34, according to
Okay,
ESPN.
just shy. Aiden actually went off in that game, by the way, 284 yards passing. That was his season high. So he pretty much destroyed the that UNI off defense.
And he did it with only 3 incompletions.
Oh, really?
Yes, that
19 of 20.
I think if I remember correctly, you and I completely sold out on the run.
And it didn't work either.
And then it actually ended up being worse than just stopping the run. They're letting us run a little bit on them, but yeah, I was gonna say that if that tailgate and that atmosphere, D-Days is always great, but that one in particular was, in my opinion, one of the better D-Days that we've had in probably at least the last handful of years. and to have it be a near sellout was a lot of fun. So that I think, as I was thinking through, I think that was probably, in my opinion, the best tailgate atmosphere the whole year was D-Days, which isn't
It
surprising,
was
right? A lot of
the
people
weather
travel
was
for it.
almost perfect too for that.
I was just gonna say that's I believe that's when we broke out the yoke boat, I believe.
Oh, was it?
Yep.
I think
You
it
did that for
was, right?
okay. I couldn't remember what game that was for.
Yeah, somebody might have to check me on that one if it was. I'm pretty sure it was.
Okay.
It's your tailgate. How
Yeah,
are we
I
supposed
know.
to check you?
I know. That's what I'm trying.
You won
I'm
tailgater of the week for that.
I was just gonna say, I'm certain it was D-Days. Yeah, it definitely was because the weather was perfect. It was good. That speaking of highlights, the yoke boat making an appearance. That'll have to be an annual thing now. But that was
fantastic. Such a
that
great
was
idea.
fun.
And what, it all came up because you guys just wanted to win tailgate of the week, right?
100%.
That's all it was.
I remember I told Rodney, I was like, "Well, if you pull a pontoon at the
flag.
tailgate, it's a done deal. It's over. You're getting it."
I mean, I've seen some stuff at tailgating, but never a full on 18 or 20 or whatever foot pontoon that is.
Yeah, I think he's got a 22, 24 foot. It's a big rig.
And it's red.
Yeah,
And it's
perfect.
red. Most importantly, it's red.
Honestly, that should be a tradition. You know, we're gonna have the Bob out for every game close to Bob's birthday in the dome. Let's just everybody bring your boats. Let's do a yoke boat tailgate.
Yoke boat best, like a yoke boat contest. Really turned into it, right? I mean, that's the move.
We'll have a boat parking contest so you can park their trailers the best and everything. Really have some fun with it prior to
I get last place in
beverages.
that, unfortunately.
I guess I'll strap my canoe to the top of the Subaru then.
That would be hilarious. All right, but yeah, those, you know, it really is tough to talk about those three games just because we absolutely annihilated them. We kind of got a little scare from Northern Iowa, but they literally just emptied their playbook to start the game. And then we just kind of pushed them off to the side and moved on. You know, afterwards, you know, we get a little nervous because we're traveling to Youngstown, our first monkey off the back situation.
Yep.
We haven't won there.
Big road test, not because they were a great opponent this year, but just because of had never won there.
And prior to the game, Tice is ruled out for.
Oh, that's right.
I believe a bruised shin, if I remember correctly, something to do with the lower leg. And so the red flags were flying up for us. Okay, this definitely isn't the way it's going to go. And just for everybody watching, listening, I promise I won't go back through the text that I got from Mitch and Grant because I had to walk them away from the cliff.
Please don't.
At least 3 or 4 times.
When we went down 14-0, I was not good, not in a good mental shape.
No, and I
outscored them 27-3. It's all good.
So Charles Pierre saved the day in that game. I think he had over 150. What do you have here?
153.
153. So have no fear, Charles Pierre is here.
Well, and if you guys remember, I was negative during the game, but even before the game, I was like, we've never won there. And I was so I was so pessimistic about it, where I was like, that's just one of those things, like a classic team of 6-7 years ago. And then you spot them 14. I go, oh my gosh, here it is. And like, I was sick to my stomach at the time. But on the flip side,
this team was different.
That's right. We were like, man, this team is, was blowing them out, right? So that was our first true challenge, and God, it felt good to get that monkey off the back.
Absolutely, yeah. And we met some good Youngstown State fans too in their pod.
Made some friends with.
That was cool.
Yeah, I think that's going to have to be a yearly thing with those. Oh,
the helmets.
Now I'm struggling with this comment because I'm a fan of the Penguin personally. I think it's a really dumb mascot, but I love the Penguin logo. So
they went with remind me on that one. That was the one where they went with like the giant penguin logo.
Yep, that was the big penguin.
Yeah,
which is when it comes to Youngstown, obviously everybody likes the block letters. Keep it casual, keep it simple. They're also in block letter nation with Michigan, Ohio State, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan State.
Right.
But yeah, I love the Penguin helmets. That's up for everybody else to discuss.
I think they're hideous. I agree. And that's just because I dislike Youngstown State. So
I was I'm just a big proponent of goofy mascots in general, and a penguin with a scarf on and a hat on checks all the boxes for me when it comes to goofy mascots. So I'm all in on the penguin. Love it.
All right, so
Love it. Love it.
favorite moment from that game, Karan hits him with the penguin waddle after his touchdown.
It is.
48-yard
Awesome,
touchdown.
awesome celebration.
And honestly, that's where you can talk about Cron's potential breakout game. He had 78 yards of total offense on only like 3 touches. And I think it was only 1 catch, wasn't it, for 48 yards and a touchdown?
I think so.
Something around there. So,
yeah.
I mean, one. Yeah, it was. He only had 2 touches for 78 yards.
The guy averaged over 30 a catch all year, so
Well,
sounds about right.
It's funny, and it's funny too because I think up to that point, we really saw Jones Logan kind of come out as like our explosive gadget player with the kickoff return against Northern, and then the big long run against kickoff return against Drake. We had the big long run against Wisconsin. So then to see Karan come on, we're like, oh my gosh, we have 2 guys that can, really explode at any time to score from anywhere. And so that was super exciting.
Then we get into the tough part of our schedule. We actually have some teams with a number in front of them. We have to go to Brookings for a night game where, sorry, Ron, it was colder in Brookings than it was in Montana State. Just so you're aware. But that game,
we got lucky. We got lucky with the weather in Bozeman. Don't kid yourself.
I know. Well, heck, yeah, we got lucky with the weather in December in South Dakota as well. But that game felt good to go in and compete with them, go toe-to-toe with them, because at that point, they just lost to North Dakota State. So they were down to, I think, the 3 at that. But it felt like we finally got over that hump a little bit to compete with them. I know we all left pretty pissed off, though, because the ending series and regulation, I'm never going to blame one player because there's so much more we can jump back to. JJ drops the trick play catch. Karan Adams, I think it was a catch, but ruled incomplete. So you can never just say, well, it all comes down to Will missing that field goal.
Right.
We had opportunities up in front of that. But then regulation was tough pill to swallow, and then they kind of, you lose the coin toss, you lose the game, it feels like.
Yeah.
In overtime.
That game pretty much was summed up as coulda, shoulda, woulda.
But Dennis Shorter showed out.
Man, he had a hell of a game. That was by far the best game of his career.
I think that was the best defensive performance by a player this season.
Yeah.
The only time I can make an argument is Gary Bryant against UC Davis. And I'm totally okay with somebody getting up on a pedestal and going against that one, or arguing for that one as well, because you're correct. But Dennis Shorter, and for some reason, Marquise Grace has this weird ability when a fumble is around him to bounce directly into his hands with no defenders between him and the end zone.
Isn't that weird that your best players always seem to be around the ball? I wonder if it's a coincidence.
It's obvious.
Funny how that works.
There's nothing else to it than that.
No, but that definitely felt like a coulda, woulda, shoulda game for sure, Mitch. I think that's the one that we felt really got away from us. And again, ultimately, when you zoom out, I don't think I mean, obviously, if you win that game, you're looking at probably a 1 or 2 seed, but ultimately, where everything kind of shook out.
Think about that. We would have been the sole Missouri Valley champions.
Yeah.
We would have had the 2 seed, hands down.
It would have been curious to see what they said, what the committee went with, because you got Montana State, who was undefeated with an FBS win, but I feel like FCS wins, USD would have had the better quality. How would they rate the FBS to FCS? Obviously, that's all, ifs and ands.
Right.
But it's always fun to speculate what could have happened.
Oh yeah. That's if you think about it, that's really the only game that you feel like got away from you, right? Because otherwise we took care of business. And again, I know some people when it comes to FBS games, I just never. It's not a fair match, right? Like you just don't have the personnel in most of the situations, so I never pick anybody to win an FBS game. But really, that's the only blemish on the record. And I think winning at Brookings is as hard a place to win as anywhere, right? As as you see with their former QB's record, right? I don't think he lost a single game while he was there.
That's right.
So
yeah.
But
you move on to the next game with it being Indiana State.
You take your anger out on poor Indiana State at home.
Oh yeah, we
second shutout of the season.
Which, crazy enough, that is just the second time a Missouri Valley team has shut out two Missouri Valley opponents in one season.
Not crazy.
Ever.
Even with all the NDSU, great teams thinking back, and even SDSU's defense, recently, that's pretty amazing.
The other thing that's amazing about the shutouts is that it wasn't these meat grinder games. It wasn't like this 13-0 win that you sometimes would expect from Missouri Valley. These were, we dominated them on both sides of the ball. Yep. One team's just that much better than the other. And, even a bad team will find a score somewhere along the way, right? So to do a shutout is truly, truly, truly special. So
Pierre went for 165 and Adams had 133 receiving in that game. So that was our other. He had what, two touchdowns, two long touchdowns. They were both like 70 yards or 60-ish yards.
2 touchdowns, 2 catches.
Gosh, and now that you have
for 133, that's crazy.
That is crazy. And I was just gonna say sorry, not to skim over Indiana State, but one of the moments that I had written down was Cron Adams' catch the next week at North Dakota, where he caught it in the end zone and then had a horrendous taunting call afterwards. I still don't understand that one, but
such a BS call.
Yeah, but the catch that he made, it just so happened that where we were sitting behind the USD bench, and I had a perfect window to where the ball. It was kind of like me, Aiden, and him were all lined up in a line. So I saw the whole thing develop and throw, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, he caught that for a touchdown!" Even though I was on the opposite side of the field. But now that you zoom out a little bit, the kind of the run, if you will, that Cron Adams had between Youngstown State to North Dakota was a insane 4-game stretch for him. Could have been even more insane had they. I think the catch was a catch as well at South Dakota State. So tack that one on as a potential big yard play as well. But it's a hell of a stretch. But
I want to piggyback off that because Pierre Jr. was also on that same tear. He went for 173 rushing against North Dakota, and then he also chipped in 75 receiving and had a long touchdown reception. So them two guys, there was like a 3 or 4 game stretch where they were just on fire.
Yeah, it absolutely nuts.
And both coming back, guys.
Right. I was just gonna say both and both who we were just talking about, both are coming back next year, right? That's the other crazy part. But I mean that North Dakota game. Yep, with this, quarterback's back, right? It's hard not to be excited about 25. There's no doubt about that. But speaking of that North Dakota game, though, hey, there it was again, 2 monkeys off the back, and the North Dakota monkey being significantly worse.
Frickin' Alaris Center.
1985. That is hard. It's hard to really wrap your head around that. I know they left for a while with the Big Sky and things like that, but just the way these two teams have played each other over the course of, I don't know, has it been 100 years, maybe more? I don't know how long it's been, but it's to think that we haven't won up there in that long. Boy, that felt good to get the win, but the ending was shaky. Remember, it was not fun.
Whatever human sacrifice they do before the game, they must have done it again in like the third quarter because that voodoo just about got us, guys.
Yeah, that was. The good news is we now know how to handle onside kick situation, whether we are the kickers or the receivers.
Lord.
But yeah, that was embarrassing in a sense. But how fitting.
I was gonna say, thank God Tice is stronger than Bo Belquist because he saved the day on that second onside kick.
Well, how fitting! Like I was gonna say, how fitting is it the 2 6-years that carried their programs?
6-year seniors
fighting for the onside
kick,
fighting for the onside kick for the game. To either keep the monkey on the back or to, exercise our demons.
Right. And you know what? I hate to say this, but if North Dakota gets that second one, they're scoring and it's game over.
Oh,
like that's a tale as old as time, right? That's a tale as old as time. You jump on 2 onsides, you're winning the football game. Like
Yeah.
The football gods have already decided it.
They went for two in that one their first touchdown to get the run going, which still honestly pisses me off. It doesn't even make sense.
It doesn't make sense except for when you look at the analytics. The analytics do say go for that, but it doesn't. To the human brain, it doesn't really make sense.
You're down 3 touchdowns. You fail that. Now you got so much harder to do another 2-point conversion against one of the best defenses who, yes, struggled. Didn't make any sense.
Yeah, why chase points? Yeah.
Exactly. But speaking of monkeys off their back, we did it again. 2 weeks in a row.
Following week.
Man.
It's been a long time since we beat the Bison.
4-minute magic. Is that what fans are calling it? The 4-minute magic?
4-minute magic. I mean, it's hard to, I would say, as far as a game goes, I think that's probably number one for me as far as games in the Dome go. I know the Hail Mary moment, just that individual play, probably tops it.
The miracle, yep.
The miracle, if you will. That individual play probably tops it, but this had so much more implications, and the whole game itself was just back and forth, punch after punch, and that's. I've never heard the Dome so loud when we scored that final touchdown. I mean, it's just so much fun.
So, side note, honestly, the 2 biggest games in the Dome, I've not been there in person. So maybe any big game,
you're not coming to
I just shouldn't be there. I'll watch it on TV or listen to it on the radio.
Start making Mitch sit in the parking lot. He's not allowed to come in on the big games.
You can tailgate with us afterwards.
I enjoyed that one from 35,000 feet or whatever the heck I was on the plane. So,
Oh, go ahead, Jake.
You go ahead, because I was just going to ask if you guys wanted to touch into the playoff side of things or just reminisce on the regular season.
We can hit the playoffs too. I think that that game by itself, I think, was the one that really really confirmed everything that we knew. Right, that this team, it was really that moment where we go, okay, we have a legitimate chance to win a national championship. At least for me, that's what it felt like. That moment.
Definitely. And history, and the fact that was our first, Missouri Valley championship. I know it was a 3-way tie, but nonetheless, you finally break that barrier as well.
And I think we had talked about it before that with that win, we pretty much knew we were going to be a top 4 seed, and we had talked about it weeks prior, where it was like, you have a really good chance to win a national championship if you're a top 2. You have to be at least a top 4 to have a realistic shot at winning it, right? So I think that was always the goal, was find a way to be top 4.
Unlike the FBS.
Unlike the FBS.
None of the
top opposite.
4 are allowed in.
1, 2, 3,
crazy.
4, gone.
Let's see him later.
Wild.
But all right, so playoffs. So then we move on to my most fun game of the season. We got Tarleton State coming in, and their garbage trash fan base.
I tell you what, Tarleton State, that was so weird. It was
a fun game. It was fun in that it was quirky, but I don't really want to do it again.
No, I never want to do it again. I prefer to watch Montana State do it. They can have the quirky game.
Right.
Let them be quirky.
Yeah, that was kind of a heart attack game. The way that they were moving the ball with the strange RPO. My dad's convinced we're going to see more and more teams run that. He just was like, could not believe how successful it was, but it just kind of paralyzes you. But yeah, I don't know about that. It was a good win. You're in the playoffs. All the teams are good. We talked about that too. But and then of course Mitch having to stand his ground a little bit against the fans. When you were telling your story, I was in tears laughing. I just loved it when you were telling it. It's so. It's only funny because you didn't get assaulted.
Basically lightly assaulted. Yeah, they took that L really, really hard, guys.
Hey, for an aspiring FBS program, it's hard for them. Okay.
Yeah, and I know everything's bigger in Texas, and I know they're a passionate fan base, but dang, they were definitely in their feelings after that loss.
Now, real quick, I do want to cut in. Unfortunately, the men's game just went final. They did end up losing 68-54. So, off night shooting wise, it looks like is really the downside of that game.
Well,
But
Yeah,
yeah.
not ideal. Good news is a lot of season left.
yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, free throw shooting's good. I'll take 23 of 29 all season long.
That'll work.
There you go.
Well, then
22
after
points tomorrow.
Tarleton, I guess we got what was probably one of the strangest games of the year, I would say, for both teams.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
What was it, 8 or 9 turnovers total?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think eight total, and we picked off a top 5 QB in the country 5 times after he'd thrown. I don't even know if he threw 5 picks all year.
No,
I have
I
to go
don't
back
think
and look at
so.
the numbers. I don't think he did, but that was really where we kind of started our tear of turnovers, right? I mean, we really forced a
Yes.
lot of turnovers from, in the Tarleton State and UC Davis game, and that kept us in a lot of games, but had our fair share of super uncharacteristic turnovers on our end too. So kind of a strange game, but UC Davis is a program I think we all agreed is on the rise and
Mhm.
seem to have a lot of things going well for them as well. So I will not be
Mm-hmm.
shocked to see them back in the playoff action here. They've got some holes to fill like everyone does, but they've got a good program, good coach. It was fun to interact with those guys with their podcast as well. So that was a fun weekend.
Yeah,
A little
that
chilly
was.
for the tailgate,
Their fans were fantastic. Completely opposite of Tarleton State, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
right?
No, and I think we all kind of agreed that UC Davis gained a few more fans for pretty much every other game of theirs from here on out. Be
Mhm.
interesting to see. But
Yep.
then, of course, you keep following along. We stick with the Big Sky. We go from the 2 or the number 2 team from the Big Sky to the number 1 out to Bozeman.
Yep. Ran into a brick wall.
Yeah, I mean a team. I will say I'm still sad it didn't work out for us to get out there because it does seem like a bucket list type stadium to get to. So a little bummed it didn't work out, but with playoffs it's hard to flip that quickly. But
Hey,
yeah,
maybe
talk about it.
if we had a sponsor, maybe we could make that happen because we had to save our pennies for Frisco if that happened. So
That is
we were
true.
penny pitching.
we
There
were
That's
was
penny
going to
true.
be a whole back-to-back party bus going from Sioux Falls down, but way to go, Montana State. Ruined it. Rained on our parade.
Way to ruin it. That's right. That's right.
That's right.
No,
And this game too was kind of a coulda, shoulda, woulda. We had some opportunities. We spotted them early.
Mhm.
A couple quirky plays in the game. Penalty wise was kind of a weird game too. But we had some opportunities at the end of the game and just didn't capitalize to complete that comeback and then maybe force overtime. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
No,
and I
it
think
was.
anybody who watched the game like understood like, okay, these two teams both belong. Like either one of these teams are capable of winning it. I know if you're just scoreboard watching, you see 31-17, you think, oh, not that close of a game. But Mitch, to your point, like ultra competitive game throughout, even though the
Mm-hmm.
scoreboard didn't necessarily dictate it, and we just couldn't quite finish some of those drives at red zone drives, right? So
yeah,
um,
horrible.
that's the one thing that I don't know if that makes me feel worse or better, but it wasn't like we went out to Montana State and you went, "Oh my gosh, these guys are just head and shoulders above us," right? Like we've had that in years past, right? 5, 6 years
Mm-hmm.
ago, I can think of times where you go, "Oh my gosh," go up to Fargo and you just think we're not even close before the game starts, right? Like
Yeah, it was a gettable
those
game.
days, those days are long gone, and I don't see those going back to those days either. So take that for, like I said, I don't know if that makes me feel better or worse, but it is what it is.
Right.
Yeah, and it's always fun to look at. We actually outgained them total yards wise, 371 to 356.
Right.
It was right there. Obviously,
Statistically, we beat them in a lot of categories. It was really third and fourth down, and specifically for us, that red zone.
Well, and I go back and I also like to look at possible yards too. And it did feel like Montana State did control the where they were at on the field comparative to us.
Oh yeah.
So they had full control over that. So they had less yards to gain than we did as well. And that's always a comparable stat. It was honestly a fantastic stadium, and I truly do want to get out there. And I am praying for the day we get a home and home with Montana State.
Yeah.
Heck, I'd love to get another one with Montana. Now that I'm in a spot where I can actually travel for a game or two, I would skip the FBS game to go out to the Montanas.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. I would prioritize those over an FBS game,
For
Yeah.
sure.
depending on what the FBS game is. I should say that. I'll take that with a grain.
That's true. It's going to be pretty hard for me to turn down Iowa State or turn
Then
down Iowa State's game this season.
I would say that's a dream game for you, though. That's I get that.
So just to end this one, so again, history was made, guys, with our first trip to the semis. So, a season full of monkeys off our back and some historical wins. Overall, you finish, maybe obviously not where we wanted to be, but still a damn good season at 11-3 with one game canceled. And really, for me, the biggest thing was 8-0 on our home turf, and that is our new turf that was put in this past summer. So we have not. There it is. We've not lost on that turf. So
no, it feels good. I do think we've had a few questions in the chat that we should probably touch on.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I believe his name is Ray, if I remember correctly. Asks, is NDSU joining the Mountain West? Obviously, with this situation, we have as much knowledge as anybody else on this. I do love Ron's response.
Yeah,
they need an invite first, and that is something that we really
it's the chicken and the egg thing.
Exactly. They can talk all they want when it comes to this moving up to FBS. They need that invite first. I do think if there is going to be an announcement, they've maybe got a behind the door agreement right now on this, if it is something that is true. And it won't be announced until after the national championship, because if they do announce prior, they're kicked out of the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is there an even number of teams in that conference currently? I know there's been some movement there, but if the reason I bring that up is because if there is, I would say they probably want a partner to where they want two schools, so NDSU and one more to come with them to keep some regional C and just even numbers in the conference for scheduling and all that.
Yeah, and they just added Northern Illinois, which is a really interesting ad. I'm trying to see if I can find.
The other piece. The other piece to this that it's not as fun to talk about is that I think it's really more market driven than anything else. And actually, Ron,
TV dollars.
Yeah, it is, unfortunately. And Ron just threw it in there. I think Tarleton would probably have a better chance of getting them as the Mountain West before NDSU does, and not because NDSU is not the more successful program. Clearly, they
UC
are.
Davis.
But,
there's a lot of schools pushing for. Sac State.
In my opinion, because it comes down to eyeballs and TV markets, I think there's about 20 to 25 teams that would be ahead of pretty much any Missouri Valley team, and that's just because of geographical location and nothing else. So it's not a very fun conversation to have about it, because I think you're right. It would be fun to see NDSU in a Mountain West or any top tier FCS team. You think they can make the jump and be competitive pretty quickly. We've seen with James Madison. I don't think it's a crazy notion to think a top tier FCS team can't go compete right away, but I don't see it. I'd be stunned, I guess, if I see it.
And it's a bigger financial commitment too nowadays than it was, say, 5-10 years ago, with just the dollars up front, the scholarship money you have to now hold for future years. It's a bigger commitment financially.
And it all comes down to location too. Is the one thing you got to really talk about. When it comes to North Dakota State, Northern Illinois was just added now, so it makes a little more sense. But Hawaii's in that conference. That's one thing you got to remember. That's what, a 5-hour difference.
Yeah, your travel budget's going up. That's for sure.
I don't think Fargo has any direct flights to Hawaii by any means. So, I think they are just blowing a bunch of smoke, and it's only fans causing a stir. I truly doubt, Mountain West might be the best landing spot if you are to move, but I don't see them moving for a CUSA or what is it, CAA, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or the AAC. Those conferences are not qualifying for the playoffs, and that's what NDSU thinks they're capable of. They're full of themselves if they think they can go and compete with anybody in the playoffs right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's fan driven. I think most of their fan base is either bored, tired, or just wants to move up. So That's kind of what I'm
And
thinking.
Ron, this is why we need you guys to win on Monday. Just don't let them get another title. So,
Yeah.
okay. So I will tell you guys a
Zero
funny
conference
story.
allegiance.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
absolutely never, especially when 3 of them are your rivals. I'll never root for the conference.
Right.
Wife just got some surgery done on her ear. Best place to go for that was up in Fargo. For all of you that don't know, her coming out of anesthesia is probably the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. And my job as her husband, loving husband, is to prompt her and push her into funnier and funnier things to say. I can't repeat it exactly because she did curse, and we're trying to keep this family-related podcast. But she said something along the lines of, "I'm up in bum Fargo. We beat them." I go, "Yeah." And don't forget,
awesome.
Kate, we won the championship for that. She goes, "Yeah, go Cats, go! Boo Bison."
That's awesome.
So you got a fan there as well. But I had to share it. I told her I was going to share it, and I found a way to fit it in. So I'm gonna. I will say, unless you guys have anything else you want to add on NDSU jumping ship.
No, I think that's all I have. I don't think it's going to happen. I think they've had opportunities over the years and they've not gone, and I don't see this one either.
Exactly. So Ron is also asking about our opinions on the newest hire for the Bunnies. And so, Ron, if you would like, you can DM me for my exact opinions because, again, we're trying to keep this family related. I'm a huge fan of this hire for the exact reason Bunny fans should not be a huge fan of this hire. The brick has been pulled out from the building that they thought they built. They realized how thin of ice every football team walks on. And, he might do well next season. But looking at their schedule and how much they're losing, I can actually see a way where they go 7-5. Just my opinion. I'm not going to say the other reason that I think it's hilarious he got hired.
Well, so if we want to talk about the coach himself, I mean, it makes sense, right? If you look at his history,
he was the correct hire.
Yeah, he was the correct. He was the correct hire for their program. Are we fans of it? Obviously, probably not, but he was the correct hire. And to your point, Jake, between the guys that they're losing in the portal and the 40 plus seniors they're now going to lose over the last 2 years, there is a lot of young guys that are going to have to step up, and they're going to have to find guys in the portal. They've got a lot of rebuilding to do. I'm not going to sit here and say that they can't do it because we know that they've recruited well. But there's a lot of unproven now. That's the difference. They're going to have a young team versus a very senior-led team that has a ton of experience. So that depth and that youth is going to be tested like it's never been before.
Yeah.
Can I say my
think the other
in my head?
Oh, go ahead.
The third coach shall reign for 1,000 years.
All right.
Sorry.
We could.
The third right of the century.
No pun intended, but we could go down a rabbit hole on this guy personally too, with all of his views.
He just have views that we fully believe in.
Yeah.
Yeah, say if you want to go down a Twitter rabbit hole, anybody listening can start that search and see what you find as we did. But the one thing I was going to comment on is I will say, unfortunately for SDSU and fortunately for the rest of the conference, this is a pretty poor time to have to go through a full rebuild, which sugarcoat it however you want. That's what it's going to be, right? Like we're in an environment where kids can leave schools every single year, right? So when something monumental like that happens, where a guy that recruited you, developed you, coached you is going to tap you on the shoulder and say, "Hey, you're my guy. I want you to come with me to the next school." That's the reality of any rebuild or any coaching change. And I think we're in a space in college football where I think at some point there's going to be some sort of guardrails put on. I don't know what that looks like.
There has to be.
But it is so out of control Wild West right now that it just seems so crazy. And that's why I say it's such a really bad time for SDSU, because they're probably living in this world that may only be like this for a handful of years. to where I have a feeling we'll look back and go, oh my God, what were we doing? That's crazy. Like just letting people jump in and out of the portal every fall, every spring, go to this team, go to that team. So because of that, I poor timing, right, for them.
I think we're all three of us are pro portal and pro NIL to the fullest, but the issue
sure.
is having to re-recruit your own team every year, basically because
Yes.
essentially all these guys are on 1 year, deals for lack of a better word. It's very we're in very interesting times. The pendulum swung so far. It was so far one way, but now it swung kind of all the way the other way. And for me, it's kind of just it's going to balance out, but it's probably going to take a little bit of time, and it's going to take some more structure to be put in place because it is truly the Wild West right now.
Now, I got a question. You mentioned re-recruiting your team all year. When it comes to recruiting your own team over again, does that include random fans podcasts, Brotherhood of the Team alumni, or is that just coaches? Because I would like it if you specified.
Well, based on recent history, I would say there's at least 10 to 15 accounts that were begging players in their DMs, posting on Twitter. I think it's all around, buddy.
Let's just say it's a good thing their volleyball team found some success. Maybe they could get some sponsorship from knee pads that they could hand out to alumni as well.
Yeah, it was sad, guys. It was really sad.
It was weird, and honestly, we could spend a whole show making fun of them on it, but it just felt desperate. The prom queen was standing up there, got her flowers as she watched her high school football captain walk out with another woman.
Mm-hmm.
She's trying to still stay up on stage and be the center of attention, but you're done.
I will say I will say too, the whole interacting with recruits in general, this has been take it back 10, 15 years, whatever you want to do. Like that whole thing's kind of been a no-no for a long time. And it was always kind of like this thing that was frowned upon, especially for fans, where it's like, hey, take it easy. And, do you remember we're just recruiting them? And now it's like, to your point, now it's this weird with Twitter and the open portal and stuff. It's now turned into this weird world where you're like, what are these fans doing? Right? Like people are DMing. It is strange to say the least. And when you have a situation like what's going on in Brookings, you just brings out some weird behavior, right? That's all I'm going to say.
So, and it just makes me think, like, how many of our fans jumped in to Grace's DMs,
right,
begging him to stay?
Right.
I'll put that number at exactly 0.
And my fear too is fans going the other way and totally being a jackwagon to the kid, and belittling them and calling them every name under the book, and
right,
just giving them the business for leaving.
That's the reality of it too, right? Like sometimes we get caught up in this world and we forget these are 20-year-olds. Like these are guys just trying to find their own way too, right? Maybe they're leaving for a completely different reason, right? Like you just
these college
idea.
Kids are like the pros now. I mean, in the NFL, they get death threats, if they drop a ball or, play that leads to a loss or whatever, So yeah, that's my biggest concern, because that goes back to the whole mental side of the game. And I don't like that.
It's tough, and I can understand where fans are at, especially the big donors, the ones that got looped into the NIL that truly donate to it. Not just our $8 a month to the Pride of the Western Plains, but the ones that go out and Phil Knight shopping his players. But with it, this Kansas State situation, I don't know if you guys have seen that. That's exactly what Mitch is talking about. I'm pretty sure a Kansas State basketball player was on the verge of tears. Coleman, I think is his name. He was on the verge of tears because of all the crap he was catching on Twitter. Well, when you pay him $2 million for that year, they expect a performance. They expect you to deliver too.
Yeah, there's some truth to that too.
And
you're kind of opening yourself up for criticism as well, because you're taking their money. You are performing, or you have to perform for it, and if you don't, they're coming for you. They're going to be disappointed. They want a refund on what they purchased, basically, which sounds horrible, because at the end of the day, this is just a game. Everybody's just getting together. But
and
I think
student athletes.
Exactly. There's students first, athletes second. But I think Jordan Decker described it best in our group chat, saying this is just modern day gladiator fighting. It really is.
Yep.
We're all there for a show, which is so weird to think about. And if you want to jump down that rabbit hole, it gets really weird. So let's just stay surface level.
Yep.
But it's all there for you're opening the door for criticism when you open up your wallet.
Yeah, it's a strange time, and it's uncharted territory. This is all new for everybody. So, yeah, weird stuff happens.
I was gonna say I'll leave us with this. One of my good friends who have been friends with a long time, he would always jokingly say this at college football games in particular, where he's like, I have the right to yell at a referee because he's a paid professional. He's getting paid, and if he's doing a bad job, I'm going to let him hear about it. He goes, I'll leave the kids alone. They're student athletes, even the opposite team. I'll leave those guys alone because they're student athletes. And he goes, so I asked him, I was like, is your tune change on that? I mean, if a guy's out there making $1 million, is he the paid professional again? He says, I think he is. I think you're right. I think we can go after him now. But we're joking, of course, to a certain extent. But to your point, Jake, like I think you're right. There's now some pressure to perform because there's some big dollars, and not necessarily at the FCS level, but at the FBS level, and and certainly in basketball, right? There's some big money thrown around, and people expect results. So it's a interesting, weird world we're living in. So,
and I can promise you guys one thing: you will never see me full on criticize a player for their performance. And I think we got the right people in this group here. I don't think either of us are gonna do it. Critiquing is definitely going to happen. We're going to give Aiden a hard time for a bad decision out on the field. We're going to give Joey a hard time for his low snaps against Montana State. We're never going to blame the game on any individual performance. We're never going to blame the lack of success because of a player's performance.
Right.
Which I think you're going to see maybe a lot of fans switching from FBS to FCS. Obviously, we have an opportunity to throw some money around. We saw SDSU, NDSU pay some players hefty amounts, but you're not going to see paid players. You got kids that want to go out there and win a game.
Right on.
That's all it is. All right. Do you guys have anything else you want to add to today?
No, I think we're good. I think we come back next week and talk portal. We'll know the dust is settled. We're starting to see some movement with players on our end. So I think we come back with that next week and we go through that list.
Which that reminds me, I mentioned it last time we chatted, but be sure to keep your eye on Twitter. Making fun of Grant a little bit. Players love this interaction. They love seeing the likes, retweets, comments from fans. So the moment you see an offer or somebody commit to USC, jump in their comments. Throw up one of the Go Yote gifts. Make sure you search on Twitter that Mitch has built, because that library is too immense that I'll probably have like 5 different comments on each commitment now, because I want to make sure all the right gifts get used.
Memes, GIFs, AI videos, whatever you got, throw it up there.
Exactly.
Right. And to that point, that's where all the recruiting's happening right now, right? It's on Twitter /X, whatever you want to call it. But all the recruiting stuff is happening out there, for better or worse, and for the weird people sending weird messages and all that. But to your point, that is something that these recruits like, right? They commit to USD. Let them know you're excited about it.
Jake's over here like this, just rubbing his hands together because he's been doing this for like 10 years. He's like, y'all, I've been here the whole time.
This is where it's at. I do want to bring up 2 things, and we'll call it a night. The first thing, if you aren't a member of the Coyote Nation Facebook page, you miss out on a post that I created. I have started a new thing. If you want to call it a tradition, you can. It's not there yet, but I created the Traveling South Dakota flag. So you can find it on Instagram. What the plan is if you're going on a trip, please reach out to me a week and a half prior to you leaving, and I will ship this flag out to you. There are 2 rules with it. First one, I guess 3. You have to take it with you, obviously, on the trip, but I'd like a picture somewhere cool. If you're going to Paris, in front of the Eiffel Tower. If you're going to DC, in front of the Washington Monument. If you're going to Orlando, do it from the rooftop of your hotel, like I did. But take a picture with it, and then before you send it back, grab a permanent marker in a small section, sign your name, where you went, and date. And I want to see this flag go all around the world, spread the Coyote love across the globe. I think it'd be cool. And one thing I will promise you, it will be on vacation during football season because it will always be flying at the tailgate then.
Love it.
And are you going to be posting, or are they supposed to post the photos in the Facebook?
So, yeah, great question. With it, I just ask that you send the picture to me, and I'll post it on that Facebook page. You can also share it yourself as well. But, growing the fan base is really what this podcast was all about, and I tried to find a fun way to do it. We do have our first one. It should be going out to DC this weekend. I'm waiting for a response back. Also, yeah, if you're flying out Sioux Falls, it doesn't have to be a week and a half. I'll meet you at the airport, unless you're flying out like this one person at 5 a.m. I'm not getting up that early. The other thing that Grant and Mitch and I have been talking about, just so everybody's aware, we are looking at the idea of growing this podcast more and more. We're looking for ideas, but I think the biggest thing we're looking for, we're going to start looking into the sponsorship side of things. So we'll definitely be reaching out to some businesses, but if you guys know of anybody, we're more than willing to have a conversation with everyone.
Yeah, be part of the show.
Exactly. I can see, taking an opportunity, building up from there, but really this off season gives us a chance to really hone in on what we want to do fully with this podcast. But I think the biggest focus is football and University of South Dakota.
Yep.
All right. You guys got anything else?
No, just thank you to everybody that tuned in tonight, but also just all season long. It's been, like Grant said at the beginning of the show, the most fun season we've had as football fans. So I'm looking forward to continuing this thing and continuing to grow.
Yeah, we're 11 days from our anniversary.
Woohoo.
Nice.
We'll be celebrating that on Twitter. So, yeah, maybe we'll do a show on the 13th just for fun.
There you go.
All right. But, hey, if we got nothing else, go Yotes.
Go Yotes.
Go Yotes.